Welcome to this week's episode of Unveiled, and today we have Renee Garing on the couch. Renee attends our Barrabool Campus, and it's so great to hear her share about what God has been showing her and teaching her about who she is as His precious daughter, as a child of God, and the fact that our identity is not found in the things that we do, but really who we are. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode as we chat with Renee. Hi Renee, how you going?
Good, thank you.
That's good. It's so wonderful to have you on the couch here today for this week's episode of Unveiled. Obviously, I know you very well. We've been dear friends for a long time, but today it's a great opportunity for our OneHope community to get to know you a little bit more. And how long have you been coming to OneHope for?
Yeah, it'd be over 20 years. So I started coming, our family moved over to this side of Geelong when I was 5. So I think, what's that, 27 years? So quite a long time. But yeah, I haven't been able to come every service with sport commitments and things along the way. But yeah, it feels like home every time we're here, and yeah, certainly love being members here.
Oh, wonderful. Now, I thought it would be a great opportunity today for you just to tell us a few things about yourself. Why don't you tell us 3 interesting things about Renee Garing?
Yeah, I always find this very hard whenever I'm on a panel or something and I have to talk about myself and interesting things. But I think probably something that might be interesting to people within this community is my connection with Christian College. I'm a teacher at Christian College, but I've actually been there a really large portion of my life. So my family actually were connected to Nicole Riddle, that started Christian College. So we started going from 3-year-old kinder all the way through. And then while I was at university with yourself, worked on school camps, and in my last year of uni with Your Connect at the farm, worked there, and then lucky enough straight out of uni to get a job. So I've been there for most of my life, except for my really toddler years. That was the only time. I probably went into the school back then because Esther would have started. So yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So 3-year-old kinder through to finishing, and then did you do any rounds there as well?
No, we weren't allowed to, but
Okay.
I did the Year 7 camp.
Yeah.
So I've been going on that Year 7 camp since uni. Now I get to run it, which is great. But yeah, a long time at Christian College.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you make a huge difference in that community. So I'm sure there's many people that might even watch this that you might have taught their children, or perhaps you've even been to school with yourself.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, there's lots of crossover, and especially with church here. But I love that community. It's a really special place, and have a few of my teachers that teach me now, which is always a bit of fun. It took me a while to be able to call them by their first names, but I'm used to it now, which is great. But that's one thing. My second one is probably about cups of tea. I can drink a cup of tea pretty much straight from the kettle. So and if it sits there for even a couple of minutes and it goes a little bit lukewarm, I can't drink it anymore. I have to start again. So
have you burnt all your taste buds off? Is that what it is?
I think so. When I was in America with a friend of Claire Tucker, we were on a bit of a budget, so we'd go and get our cup of hot water and put our own tea bags in it. And I think just because it was so cold, we'd just drink it straight away. So started from there, and now I'm just great with a hot drink, which is not great if people don't serve it hot. That's not as enjoyable.
So no one ever makes you a decent cuppa, basically, is what you're telling us.
If there's too much milk. So I often make them for other people.
I've just realised every time I make you a cuppa, you say to me, I'll make my own. That's because I don't make a very good cup of tea.
No, you do.
You're making your own from now on. I'm not making you a cup of tea ever again.
I think it's if we just get into a conversation, then it sits there for a little while. Because you like yours strong, which is why it sits there for a bit.
Okay, well, we're all learning here. You can make your own cups of tea when you come to my house from now on.
Pleasure. That'll be fine. All right, third one. I think probably something interesting is I went to acting school when I was younger.
Wow.
Certainly don't have acting skills and yet I haven't made a career in acting, but I got a TAC commercial as I was leaving the acting school. I think they thought we might be able to keep her if we give her a little ad. So that was an interesting, fun experience, a day off school to actually dress up in a school dress, and was a part of the actual video was me and another girl walking across the road, and it helped somebody else remember a car accident that had happened, which wasn't great, but yeah, it was good fun.
There you go. Jack of all trades, aren't you?
Yeah, look.
Very good. And now something else interesting that other people might not know is you have just signed another contract for 2021 to play for the Cats in the AFL women's team. That's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is really exciting. Yeah, third season in the AFLW, so we're looking forward to a big year, and yeah, training's up and about now, which is great. So
and how great for women. You know, we're doing this for Bloom Women's Ministry, and for so many years football has been a man's game, and now for women to be involved and for the community to be embracing that, I think it's exciting.
Oh, the numbers are huge. Obviously at school I talk to lots of girls and boys that love the AFLW, and we have a bit of banter, and I think I've convinced quite a number of students if they go for a different team for the men's, I'm like, well, at least for the women's, you can go for Geelong. So I'm working on that. We're trying to get them to go for Geelong in both teams, but at least in the women's.
Well, my darling Piper, as you know, we come and watch you quite a lot, and we know that you are very physical in your game, and there was one week you came off and you had blood pouring down your face, and Piper turned around, she looked at me and she said, "Mummy, I never want to play football." And I said, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. So keep doing what you're doing, because I don't know, I'm a bit scared of my girls playing football.
No, that'll be fine. No, it's a great it's a great game, and I think how lucky are the girls coming through that they can choose whatever sport from that age. Like I know I did the Oz kick with my younger brother Jackson, and I was the only girl and having a go, and same thing with cricket. But now there's actually full Oz kick groups of girls and boys, and then there's a combination, and there's competitions that go through all the way. So it's really exciting. It
is. So clearly sport is something that is very important to you. Can you just share with us a little bit about, your passion for sport, and, what is it about sport that you love so much?
Yeah, look, I think as a PE teacher and yours, I've ended up in that because I love, obviously, it's good for us in terms of the element of physical activity and finding whatever it is that you enjoy doing. And I think that as a PE teacher, that's my aim, is to make sure everyone finds something, because we know how important it is for our mental health and all those aspects as well. But I think for me, I did some individual sports growing up, but team sport is what I love the most. I think the connect that we get through sport is something like no other. Like, I've got friendships still from netball and my years playing netball that we still catch up regularly, and you go through so much, and you do all that preparation together, and you help each other improve in so many ways, and build those relationships. And again, I think that through football as well, there's been lots of other things and opportunities that have come up through playing in the AFLW with the community, and getting opportunities to speak at different things. But ultimately, again, it's that connection and the relationships that I've built with the girls that, I invited my whole netball team to our wedding, and I feel sorry for the girls that are in footy teams and then have weddings, because netball was only 10, whereas footy, you've got we have a squad of 30, and then if you have partners and things like that. So you just form these bonds that you carry with you throughout the rest of your life, I think. And
it's relationship. That's what you just said then. And you're such a relational person, being able to build strong connections with people. It's actually a real gift that you have. And I know, we've got a great relationship, but I know so many people that would speak so highly of you and the input that you've had in their lives. So it's great that gift that God's given you, you can then use, to bless others in sporting. So, and that's probably why you're so talented as well.
Yeah, a little bit competitive. It also helps, but
very competitive. There's not actually, what's our joke? I have a joke that the only thing I'm better than you at is running up hills, because I've got stronger legs.
Lots of other things. Riding uphill too.
Riding up hills.
Riding in general, actually.
Yeah, well, but that's okay, because God created us differently.
Yeah.
There's many things I'm sure that, God's gifted me at. Football, not one of them.
You've got lots.
So when we first spoke about getting you to come and have a chat, and obviously the heart of Unveiled is just sharing real vulnerable stories and sharing what God's doing in our lives. And some people might know or they might not know that you've had an experience with an eating disorder and some challenges around body image and those sorts of things. And we talked about that, and originally we were like, yep, you know, we think that's where we're going to go, that's what we're going to share. But then as we unpacked it a little bit further, you really felt like it was important to focus on what God has been showing you about identity. And I thought, you know, let's get into that. Let's explore that a little bit further. I know for myself, the word identity, it's like, oh my goodness, how do you even define that? What does identity mean? But today I'd love just to hear from you, you know, what has God been revealing to you about who you are as his daughter?
Yeah, I think, as we know, it is a huge topic, and as teachers, we think about it in terms of trying to help the adolescents to start to develop an idea of what their identity is and who they are. It's a journey, and I think that's something that I'm continually learning, and there's been challenges that are popping up where God's been reinforcing that and trying to, I suppose, teach me and help me to realise that my identity is in him, rather than, I think, often we can have challenges with trying to create our own identity based on what we're seeing in the world. Or for me, I think knowing that I am quite competitive and like to do things and do things well, I sometimes fall in the trap of actually not creating my identity, but placing my identity and seeing myself as like a footballer now, or as a netballer before then, or as a teacher, or as a wife, or those things. And yes, they're major parts of my life and things that I have value in. And but essentially, I think this year particularly, and it's been a challenging season for people, and I think that I've been really blessed with lots of positives coming out, some more time with my husband, being home a lot more, and those sorts of things. But actually, teaching was different this year for everyone. Football stopped. Lots of other things. So those things that I maybe saw myself as this is who I am. I'm a footballer. I'm a teacher. I'm these things. Well, they weren't necessarily the same. So I had to think about them differently. And I almost had this. I think there was a number of sermons I listened to throughout this year of Job and those things in his life being stripped away, and actually his resilience in that and nothing else, like those things didn't matter as much as they hurt losing them. And I think that's what I felt this year has been a real revelation of if all that was to go away. And I think we often we hear sermons on, like, if we can't trust that our families are always going to be there. We know horrific situations happen and people lose people, and you never wish that for anyone. But in reality, we have to be okay. Like, it's actually at the centre of things. That's not who we are, although we are a child of someone. We are a wife or a husband, maybe. We have friendships and things like that. But first and foremost, I need to, like, see who I am in God's eyes. And that's what I've been learning. Yeah, and being his child, his daughter. And you know, there's that Hillsong song, Who You Say I Am. And I love that song, and I meditate on that song often, and I play it with my children as well, because I am who you say I am. I am a child of God. And I think when you talk about identity, it's so important to understand that as the source of, well, who am I? I'm a child of God. I'm his precious daughter. So it's, and you said just then, it's this year. You know, you've been a Christian for how long? You know, yet this year God's still revealing and peeling back the layers to teach you who you are as his child. So it's quite amazing, isn't it? Yeah, and I know that I'm going to continue to learn and be challenged, like, because there's stuff that comes up and then you're like, actually, recentering yourself, what are you... how are you seeing yourself? Because actually how we see ourselves, I think, influences how other people see us too. And I think that, like many Christians, like, we're placed in different communities to be an example. And I think I've been really blessed to be in I suppose, outside the physical building of the church. I'm within different communities where people know that I have a faith, and I'm quite open with that. But with that, I suppose we have that the responsibility, but just to live genuinely as a child of God, and in that, so that other people do. And if I start seeing, trying to draw onto things of the world, well, actually, are we doing, I suppose, living it out to in the fullest that we can.
Yeah, being that shining light and reflecting Christ, which again is the heart of Unveiled, sharing that message of the transforming work of the Holy Spirit in our lives to reflect Christ. That's, as a child, we, in our identity, will reflect our Father in heaven. So that's that process of that journey of that redefining of who we are, because ultimately we were born to reflect Christ. We weren't born to reflect the world. We weren't born to, fit into everything that was going on around us. And I know for you and what you've shared with me, it's easy to grab onto football because football's what you do. Like, how many times a week do you train? And, it's such a big part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yet, God said to you, what would happen if I took that away? Yeah.
And that can happen quite easily. Like, people get injured or whatever might happen. Contracts, they're really short. So, I think this year was the first time that I said, well, having a conversation with God, and I was like, that's okay. Like, if that was to go tomorrow, that would be okay.
Yeah.
If that's what was meant to be. And I think I had to get to that point because it isn't going to last forever.
Yes.
So if I don't start to realise that now, and the same thing with everything else, you've got to, the sooner we can figure those things out and I suppose building our relationship with God, and continue to seek, and when challenges come, we're more prepared than if we wait until something's taken away and then realise, well, actually I was putting all my eggs in that basket and kind of gone on my own path a little bit over there. So.
Yeah. And I think it's actually really easy, and even as you're just saying this now, how things that we do can become like idols in our life. And sport is probably one of those things. I say this, I say it a little bit reluctantly, but my children can become like idols in my life, because an idol is something that you are putting before God. And just to sit there and recognise that and sit in that, not saying that my children are bad and I should not give them time and attention, but we are called to put God first. That is the greatest calling. So when our time and our energy is being focused on the things that they're still valuable, yes, but it places a wedge between you and God. So it's quite exciting to think that, in that stripping back, what He's potentially preparing you for.
Yeah, and I think you're completely right in saying it can be positive things that can still take us away from our relationship with God, and we have to have that perspective. And I'm continually having to have that perspective, because even though lots of things are positive things, you got to have this right first, so that we can be our best for everyone else in seeing Christ in us. That's
absolutely, and that's exactly it. My children 100% are positive, but it's being able to look through that lens and understanding yourself as a child is a really great starting point. So again, people that don't know you well wouldn't know how disciplined and how hardworking you are. Going to uni together, I've seen how disciplined you are, and our friendship, even just through your exercise and commitment and all of those sorts of things. Do you ever feel like you're not living up to expectations, or that you don't want to disappoint or do the wrong thing, being so hardworking and so disciplined?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I think is a continual journey of learning, and that I have to reinforce, and I have to sometimes just, God, take this, because actually I need to put this back in your hands. And I think also, like I said before, in terms of us wanting to be like a demonstration of Christ to those around us, I think I know I have an issue with trying to do that perfectly.
Yes.
And trying to do everything really well, and I want to give 100% to everything I'm doing, and so I do want to actually be as best I can, but then I do struggle when I make a mistake.
Yes.
Say something or do something. I don't want to disappoint God, and I think that's and I don't want to disappoint my colleagues or my teammates, and that's something that I'm continually having to pray about, because actually God's like, no, I love you. I knew you were going to do that actually before you did it, but well, we learn through that. You don't just go and do it again,
Yes.
Whatever it might be, but actually, thank you for coming back to me, and now let's work through that, and I forgive you, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But we do have to give it to him. I think that's where if we just feel that God doesn't want us to feel like guilt and condemnation, but actually he just wants to take it and we move, like we learn from it, we move forward.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure that's like a parent. You don't stop loving them when they make a mistake.
Yes.
You love them, you want to learn from that, don't do it again. So I think that's something that I'm going to have to continually hand over because I want to do things so well, but we also aren't perfect.
Yeah. And it's that conviction versus condemnation as well, isn't it? So, you know, you have done the wrong thing. I can't believe you would have done that. How did you say that in front of one of your teammates? That's not of God, you know, whereas God may convict you and you pull back, oh, hang on, maybe next time I shouldn't say that. Yet there's that love and there's that forgiveness that you receive. But like we said, it's the journey. It's that process of learning and growing, and it's how you respond. If you don't respond at all, then you're probably not growing. But when you respond and go, oh, hang on a second, no, I don't want to say that, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to try and be perfect, because we weren't created to be perfect. Yeah. So it's that process of growing and learning. And you and I, again, we are people pleasers, and I'm constantly, you know, it's the fear of man. Like God has been showing me so much around acceptance and pleasing people, and just that position that I just do not want to live in. Constantly, doing things and thinking, oh, what's this person going to think? What's that person going to think? But we know that there's nothing that we need to do. We've already pleased God just by being who we are. Yeah. How do you personally, if you could even give us some strategies or ideas of how do you shift your mindset? So, because so much of what you do is based on performance, say like on the football field or something like that. How are you shifting your thoughts and processing that?
Yeah, I think slightly different in different scenarios, I suppose. Like in terms of a football setting, I'm an analyzer, as you can imagine, and post-game I'm thinking about particularly the things I didn't do right and want to do better for the team and improve on those. So actually now, rather than just stewing over it, I try and act on it. So whether it is rewatching the game and actually being like, well, what can I do to make the right option next time, or what actually do I need to work on? Or I might try and touch base with the coach and say, I wasn't happy with this and this, how can I build on that? And rather than just stewing over it, or if it's a situation where I feel like I've maybe said the wrong thing or those sorts of things, again, now I actually, rather than stew on it and worry about it, I act on it, and I might message someone and be like, sorry, I think I might have said something that I don't know if it came the right way it was meant to come across, apologise, or just check in, did that sound this, did that sound that, and check, rather than just worry about it. So I think I used to just worry, and then actually if I ever saw that person again to touch base, then they're like, what are you talking about? Like didn't even, not on their radar at all. Yes. But actually by getting that clarity straight away, I can move on. Yes. Or if it's a football game, actually the coach is like, yeah, great, you did all these things good and it was positive, but there are those things you need to work on. We'll work on that training. Yeah. Let's move on. Yes. Don't worry another minute about it. Yeah. But if you don't do anything about it and you just sit there and you're stewing, actually by the time you get to your next training session or you see that person again, you've built up all this energy that's not positive, it's not helping anyone. So for me, I think it's, acting on it. In terms of, if we're talking about with my relationship with God, actually it's the same thing. Yeah. Either I worry about it on my own, or I do the same, like take it to prayer. I spend some time reflecting or journaling or whatever it might be. Yes. Yeah. And handing it over. Yeah. So important. And knowing, because you know that you are loved, it's easy for you to go to that position. Now, is there anything that you sit here now and think, do you know what, if I could do it all over again, you know, I wish that I knew this earlier in life. Is there one thing that sort of stands out to you that you wish you knew earlier in life that you know now? Yeah, I think there's a few things that we could all go back and tell ourselves when we were younger. I think for me, having grown up in a wonderful Christian home, and I'm so thankful that my parents raised us the way they did and sent us to Christian college from that young age, so we were getting lots of opportunities to develop in our faith. I think probably I would tell my younger self about, don't think you're missing out.
Yes.
So the world is going to tell, and does, like we're seeing it more and more in the things we're exposed to in TV, movies, that sort of stuff.
Social media,
all those things are saying what is fun, what is successful, all these different things. And I think a lot of the time now they're not aligning with what God wants for us.
Yes.
And I suppose as a young person, I felt like I was missing out when I wasn't doing things, or didn't want to do things that other people were doing. And I suppose, throughout probably my 20s, when I was like, oh, maybe I do want to live this way, or experience those things. And actually it's really self-centered living if I think around some of those things, or lonely, actually not healthy behaviours, and I suppose things that you can focus in on. Or if we think of social media and we think of the messaging around spending so much time focusing on body, and that's probably one thing for me that we have spoken about plenty, that it was actually not a good pathway or a healthy pathway.
Yeah.
Spending too much time thinking about that, which is really self-centered thinking, and it is taking in what the world's saying and changing behaviour, and actually got to a point where it was so consuming that there wasn't much left to give to my relationship with God, actually, because my focus, and I was just so honed in on other things. So I think if I could tell my younger self, it's actually spend time with God and actually connect in with other young people that are on the same journey as you. And we know that actually going on a Christian journey, it's not all rainbows and sunshines, and there's going to be challenges, because you are going to be immersed in school environments and university environments where you might not have a whole group of Christian friends around you, and there's going to be challenges, and others might try and entice you into different things. So actually go back to what the purpose that God has for you and intends for you, and it's so much greater. I think that constantly, whenever sometimes I find myself and I have to hand back over things because I've taken control. Sometimes I try and take the reins a little bit, you know that. And when I hand it back over, doors open to things, and I'm like, I couldn't even, football was not on my radar whatsoever. And I think of all of the relationships and the opportunities to connect that have come out of it. And I think, like we said before, in terms of being able to share my faith with people that maybe would not have had any exposure to someone as closely as I've had with some people. All of that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have given back the reins at a point in time. So I think, just hold on. I suppose we know that there's going to be bumps and the journey's a bit like this, but know that God's path is so much greater than anything the world thinks that it's got for you.
That's fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you for your time today and sharing that. And I know people watching will be so encouraged by what you've been able to share. And I would say, as one of your friends, even I look at you and I sort of think, she's got it all together. She's got this going on. She's got that going on. But being able to share openly and honestly, you're on this beautiful journey, and it's so encouraging to hear you speak about what God is showing you. So I just want to encourage you and just say, keep on seeking God and keep on letting Him be your number one, and just embracing the fact that you are His precious daughter and you are loved. And every environment that you find yourself, just keep on shining His light, because you are making a difference. So bless you. And I'm sure we'll have many more chats.
I'm sure we will, yeah.
So as you've heard today, as we've chatted to Renee, it is so important that we recognise and realise who we are as God's children. And even those strategies of bringing things back to God, He loves us so much. And there is nothing that we can do, there's nothing that we can say that will change that. So I hope you're encouraged by today's episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time.